Hello, welcome to another session of How To. Today we're going to take a good look at how to set up funds in your nonprofit organization. When starting Cougar for the first time, you'll need to go out to General Ledger to make your chart of accounts. One of the things you'll have to think about is the different funds or the different grants that you're receiving under one fund or many funds. Usually a fund is going to explain if a fund is restricted, non-restricted, or temporary restricted. Going down to set up funds, we open it up. You go down to decide what your fund number is going to be. Now, a fund number can be done as a character. You can have letters as well as numbers. My suggestion in setting this up is that you use letters. They're easy to be outstanding, and they're much easier when you're doing your reports later on if you want to zero in on these particular funds. They don't have to be. They can be set up as numbers that you decide what they are and go across and make whatever fund that you want to make and call it your number. But my suggestion is that you use a particular letter on the fund. Now it counts the characters, so when we get into our number that we have, we'll have a 4-digit number. Here we decide about the transfer. Now the most common mistake is made here. This is not telling if a fund is restricted or non-restricted or even temporary restricted. It's how you're going to transfer money between two separate funds. If you choose the due to, due from, then you will have to fill in the information down here. And what that is, these are your balancing. So if you make let's say a payment in accounts payable, and you have two different funds that you're paying a bill from, not only will the transaction be balanced, but then it will be forced into balance by our due to, due from, that both funds will have a counterpart to it. Now in this particular case, usually the due to is a liability account. And the second one, the due from, is usually an asset. So they counteract each other off. Encumbrances are for those people that have purchase order. If they don't have purchase order, encumbrance is not needed. Encumbrance only shows when you make a purchase order if it's going to be carried into the next fiscal calendar. This is for those people that don't usually have a calendar year, but they have a fiscal calendar. I need to order something in June, but my calendar ends on June 30th. I'm going to end up buying it in the next year, which would be July 1st on. So because of that, I'll run a reserve and an encumbrance so I can use the money of this year, even though the items I'm buying will come in next year, which will unreserve it the following. Usually a reserve encumbrance has a liability, and an unreserved usually has a net asset. And then the most important one, especially if you're not using these four, the one you really need the fund for is where do you put your fund balance? Retained fund balances is that at the end of the year, whatever your profit or loss, even though it's a net asset, where does it go? So you can carry it over for the following year. Your funding would show starting date would be different if you have an account that has a multiple calendar. In this example, we do have one, which is our foundation. We still have it set up as a due to, due from. But the foundation starts on 3/1 of 2012, which means it ends on 2/28 of 2013. In this particular case, it's not set up as the same calendar as the other ones. When setting this up under the options or your module preferences, you will be asked if you want to activate multiple fiscal calendars. And in this particular case, yes, we do. That way, if you have another fiscal calendar that does not match your administration calendar or general calendar, when you set up the fund, then you'll be able to drop this down and have many choices of where that date should start. then you'll know when the ending is going to be. Cougar has made it easy so you can start it no matter what it is, 2 or 3 or 5 years out. Now, once you have done your segments and your fund, have set it up, every time you bring up that particular fund, down here where it has the restricted type, this is where you put if that fund, admin in this particular example, is unrestricted, temporary restricted, or restricted. That way, as I go to the next fund, in this case a federal fund, you can see is restricted. The next fund, the foundation, has the multiple calendar on it. It also is restricted. But the grant and foundation or fellowship fund is set up as temporary restricted. So the only unrestricted fund that I have in this example is administration, which I get to choose what I want to do with the particular monies. So in setting up funds, be very careful that you set them up the way your funding is set up, as if it's for a transfer between one fund to another. How are you going to do it? If you choose do to, do from, Cougar will do it automatically for you. If you set it up as restricted, that just means that you are the director, are the only person going to be choosing how to set up and who gets transferred money from one fund to another. If it's unrestricted, that just means that anybody can make the move where they can put in money and restrict it from one to the other, no matter what. After the funds are completely set up, then you can come back to the segments and choose where you want to put that fund. In my particular case, I like using the fund as a suffix because I find that data clerks like to use the accounts more than they do the fund. But because my funds are set up as words, it's easy access to find out if they're in the right fund. It makes it clear because I wrote them down rather than use numbers. But you can use numbers. As you can see here, my fund is the last 4 digits. So I have my account number, I have a project or program, in this case they're programs, and I have my funds. That concludes another how-to. If you have any other questions, feel free to call our customer service department at 800-388-3038, and they will be glad to assist you.